hopefully you guys are thinking that, well, where the hell did they come from? Okay, so one of the answers is found in linguistics, and the other is found in anthropology. Okay, so I want to present both theories to you because since we're in academics, it's always good to look at both theories. So linguistics takes you to the island of Taiwan via a language group which are called Formosan languages, the old name of Taiwan, and anthropology takes you to Java and Sumatra as the homeland. So right now, uh, each discipline and each science has its own answer based on its own evidence. But it's good to understand both in the context of what we're studying in Hawaiian studies. But to give you an idea how language data can work when looking at Pacific languages, right? Because we know what anthropology can do, right? We looked at material culture like adzes and stones and all that sort of stuff. And we watched the navigators. You saw evidence of all the anthropology, and everybody understands kind of what that's about. But what about linguistic evidence, right? How does that work? So one of the ways linguistic evidence works in pointing to a homeland is looking at how languages are related. And we can see this on a very, very basic level as far as sounds and as far as words are concerned. So what we're doing here is sort of doing a side-by-side comparison of these 5 different languages of the Pacific. So the first 4 are squarely Polynesian languages. The last one, Fijian, kind of exhibits both Polynesian and Melanesian characteristics at the same time, which makes it very, very interesting. And remember, what was the hub of the Pacific? Fiji was one of the places that was the hub of the Pacific. So it kind of exhibits both Melanesian and Polynesian attributes at the same time. So Hawaiian, we're looking at the words for taro and canoe. So kalo, talo, talo, taro, and in Fijian, it's pronounced ndalo, ndalo, with that prenasalized consonant nd. Okay, and for canoe, va'a, vaka, va'a, va'a, and vanga, which is canoe. So you have these very interesting sounds. Okay, so if you look in the Fijian lineup, right, you see this nda and nga, right, and you have this other sound that I've listed there, which is indicated by a C, which is a the sound. Those sounds you don't find in any Polynesian language. But when you look at Melanesian languages, you realize they're very common. Okay, so it has kind of this Polynesian form to the words, but the sounds that are included in Fijian are very, very Melanesian. So at the same time, it's both Polynesian and Melanesian, much like the people are. There's like Eastern Fijians and Western Fijians who sort of self-identify as being Melanesian or Polynesian. Okay, so it's kind of one way that language evidence can corroborate theories. So just focusing on Melanesia, Micronesia, Polynesia, this map is actually what you're going to be using for your first map quizzes. So get to know it. It's in the handout. And so you're going to have to know some island names, but the dispersal of the languages is kind of important. And again, how the languages are situated. And if you look at the sort of spread of all these languages, it becomes pretty unique. And there's some pretty interesting things about Polynesian languages, Micronesian languages, and Melanesian languages with respect to the islands and the groups of islands that they're spoken on. For example, Micronesia, as a rule, has one language per island or group. Okay, so on Chuuk, you speak Chuukese. On Pohnpei, you speak Pohnpeian. Okay, so one language per island or island group. In Polynesia, the same can be said. In Hawaii, you speak Hawaiian. In Marquesas, you speak Marquesan. Tahiti, Tahitian, for the most part. And in Melanesia, it's off the charts, off the scale. In fact, it is the most linguistically diverse place in the world. Melanesia, and more specifically Papua New Guinea, which holds approximately a little over a fifth of the world's languages in one small place. Okay, well, it's a pretty large place, but compared to a lot of continents and others, it's a very, very large concentration of languages. So it makes it very unique. Okay, so here we see sort of islands of Micronesia. And if you look closely in there, and I'm not going to point them out just yet because it's going to be on your map quiz, things called outlier languages. So what are these outlier languages? And when you see something that says outlier language, it says a Polynesian outlier language usually. And these are Polynesian languages, like I alluded to earlier, that are spoken outside of geographical Polynesia, but are spoken inside of Micronesia. Okay, and so that kind of makes that whole idea of borders sort of irrelevant. But for you guys now, I'll just sort of use the borders. But so you have a few different languages that are spoken in Micronesia, okay, in nuclear Micronesia, and languages of Polynesia spread out pretty wide range from Maori to Hawaiian and all the little islands out by what we usually term Western Polynesia. Western Polynesian languages or Eastern Polynesian languages. The languages of Samoa, of Tonga, and those island areas are usually separate from the Eastern Polynesian languages, which are more related to one another, like Hawaiian, Marquesan, Tahitian, Maori, and so on and so forth. Tonga actually has its own sort of status in the hierarchy of Polynesian languages as being the ancestral language of them all, and a very unique structure not shared by any other Polynesian language specifically. And of course, languages of Melanesia, which are very, very, very complex and show such a range of different types of features from being Polynesian to being Melanesian and so on and so forth. So you see some of the languages of Papua New Guinea. And again, pay attention to the map packet that I gave you guys. A lot of these maps are in there and in the readings coming up. But you'll see some outlier languages there as well. So try to imagine the distance from Polynesia to Papua New Guinea and ask yourself, well, how did these languages get there? Same with the Solomon Islands. You look at all the different types of languages there and the different islands, and there are a few outlier languages as well, Polynesian languages, with very sort of radical different words. Vanuatu as well, looking at some of the languages of Vanuatu. And one of the things that's sort of been fascinating for me is trying to look into place names. I think place names is such an unreal way to look at the history of an area and just to study sort of where it came from. So again, kind of wrapping up this thing here. So languages of the Pacific and our culture areas. This is going to be sort of your map to study. So hopefully you guys get a handle on it. But yeah, place names. We're going to get into a little bit more about Pacific place names and Hawaiian place names because there's such a rich, rich wealth of knowledge there that connects and in very, very simple terms. It's kind of like going to New York, right? And then saying, why is it New York, right? Was there an original York? Well, yes, of course, the original York comes from England up on the northeast coast in Yorkshire. So, that's kind of a modern day easy example, but the Pacific art is full of things like that. So connections of words, right? Like Kona and Tonga and all those sorts of things. There's a whole mess of them. So again, we really want to pay tribute to our Austronesians. I'm very proud to be Austronesians and descendants of Austronesians. So there we go, and I hope you guys enjoyed that.